Hi, good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television, your one-stop morning show for top stories from India and around the globe. My name is Aishwarya and these are the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and visiting Iranian President Hassan Rouhani to hold talks in Delhi today. Trade, regional security and connectivity to top the agenda. Progress on the Chabahar port that India is helping develop to be a key focus of discussions. Supreme Court gives a solution to the long-standing Kaveri water dispute. Apex Court says no state can claim exclusive ownership of interstate river water, allocates more water to Karnataka to meet the needs of global city Bengaluru. Centre and Karnataka welcome verdict, Tamil Nadu disappointed. Stage set for Tripura Assembly elections on Sunday, voting for 59 of the 60 seats to take place. BJP posing tough fight to ruling left-front government that is aiming for a record sixth term. Congress looks for a comeback despite infighting. Reserve Bank of India assessing control systems at the Punjab National Bank after the fraud case involving jeweller Nirav Modi. Market regulator SEBI launches probe into the bank's trading. External Affairs Ministry suspends passports of Nirav Modi and his partner for 4 weeks. Income Tax Department attaches 21 bank accounts of his company. And Virat Kohli's 35th century guides India to an 8th wicket victory over South Africa in the 6th and final one-day international at the Centurion. Yuki Bhamri breaks into the top 100 tennis rankings for the first time in 2 years, enters final of Chennai Open ATP Challenger, beating Korean challenger in straight sets. Our top story this morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold talks with the visiting Iranian President Hassan Rouhani today. Rouhani, who is on a 3-day visit to India, arrived in Delhi after a 2-day stay in Hyderabad. During the talks, the two sides will discuss trade, regional security and connectivity, including the strategically important Chabahar port. The two sides are also looking at inking a number of pacts in several key areas, apart from exploring the scope of cooperation in fields such as health and traditional medicine. India and Iran have robust economic and commercial ties covering many sectors, though it has traditionally been dominated by the import of Iranian crude oil by India. Rouhani will meet President Ram Nath Kovind and Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu later today. And earlier in Hyderabad, Hassan Rouhani expressed a willingness to share Iran's vast oil and natural gas resources with India for the prosperity of its people and offered to also simplify visa norms to strengthen the relations between the two nations.
دو ملت بزرگ ایران و هندوستان می توانند در صنعت، در کشاورزی، در تکنولوژی روز آنچنان در کنار هم باشند که منافع دو ملت بزرگ و منافع منطقه را تامین کنند.
And Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will arrive in India today on a 7-day visit. This will be Trudeau's first visit to India as Prime Minister. Now, the aim of the visit is to expand overall ties between the two countries with a focus on defense and security, counter-terror cooperation, trade and investment and tackling climate change. Both the sides are also expected to deliberate on enhancing cooperation in civil nuclear sector. India is also likely to raise the issue of revival of Sikh radicalism in Canada and the presence of supporters of Khalistan movement in Trudeau cabinet. A number of key ministers in Trudeau's cabinet, including the defence, foreign, sports and trade, will be part of his delegation. And ahead of the visit, the National Security Advisors of India and Canada met and prepared the ground for Trudeau and Prime Minister Narendra Modi to expand the defence and security ties. Trudeau will hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on 23rd of February in Delhi. Besides his engagements in Delhi, Trudeau will also visit Agra, Ahmedabad, Mumbai and Amritsar. The next day, he is scheduled to address a conference of young changemakers before wrapping up his visit. And ahead of his visit, Trudeau tweeted, "Wheels up for India and a busy visit. focused on creating good jobs and strengthening the deep connection between the people of our two countries. On to some other news, India is committed to protecting environment and expects others to also fulfill their commitments. Stating this while inaugurating the World Sustainable Development in New Delhi on Friday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi asserted that India is proactively tackling challenges posed by climate change. Over 2,000 delegates from across the world are taking part in the summit.
India believes in growth, but it's committed to protecting the environment. That was Prime Minister Narendra Modi's message to the World Sustainable Development Summit 2018. Addressing the delegates in New Delhi, Prime Minister Modi said respect for nature is part of India's culture.
India believes in growth, but is also committed to protecting the environment. Friends, it was with this thought that India, along with France, initiated the International Solar Alliance. It already has 121 members. It is perhaps the single most important global achievement after Paris.
Sustainable development has been defined as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The summit aims at creating an action framework to resolve challenges facing developing economies in an era of climate change. Inaugurating the summit, Prime Minister Modi said India has taken several initiatives to achieve sustainable development.
Recently, National Geographic's Grindex report of 2014, which assesses the environmental sustainability of consumer choice, ranked India at the top for its greenest consumption pattern. Over the years, the World Sustainable Development Summit has spread consciousness about our actions to preserve the purity of Mother Earth to all parts of the world.
The Prime Minister also raised concerns about water availability and asserted his commitment to ensure that no farm goes without water. He also said that the government is working to electrify every household of the country. The theme of this year's summit is Partnerships for a Resilient Planet. Over 2,000 delegates from across the world are discussing issues like land erosion, effective waste management, prevention of air pollution and climate change at the two-day summit. Navikram Singh's report for Rajya Sabha television.
Motivating students to take stress-free examinations, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday conducted a session Pariksha Par Charcha in the national capital. He not only urged students to choose the subjects of their interest, but also appealed to the parents not to pressurize their children for better results. Here is a report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi assuming the role of an education counsellor, offering career advice to thousands of students. At the interactive session Pariksha Par Charcha, the Prime Minister answered questions from students, telling them not to get too focused on getting a career.
मैं आप सभी नौजवानों से आग्रह करूंगा, ये कैरियर नाम का शब्द कुछ बनना तय करके करने से आप गुलाम हो जाते हैं। फिर सारा सोच, दिनचर्या, जीवन, यार, दोस्त सब उसी में सिमट जाता है। करने का इरादा होगा तो सारे रास्ते खुल जाते हैं। और इसलिए आप मन में कुछ करने का इरादा रखिए, स्वतंत्रता को एंजॉय कीजिए, वो आपको एक नई ताकत देगी।
Prime Minister Modi also urged parents not to pressurize children to meet their aspirations. Apart from emphasizing the importance of getting quality sleep, he suggested yoga as a good way to improve concentration.
शवासन है, योग निद्रा है, बड़ा सिंपल सा प्रयोग है जो योग निद्रा के द्वारा, उसकी सीडी अवेलेबल होती है, आप इस सीडी को के आधार पर खुद भी कर सकते हैं, जिसमें आपकी कम नींद भी आपको साउंड स्लीप देती है। और मैं मानता हूं कि नींद बहुत आवश्यक है जी।
Around 2,000 school and college students took part in the interaction. Addressing the students, Prime Minister told them to think of him as a friend and even answered a question about his own preparation for the election exam.
आपकी बोर्ड के एग्जाम के लिए मेरी आपको बहुत शुभकामनाएं, लेकिन मेरी बोर्ड के एग्जाम के लिए 125 करोड़ देशवासियों के आशीर्वाद मेरे साथ है, वो ही मेरी ताकत है, उसी के भरोसे मैं आगे चलता हूं.
Pariksha Par Charcha comes 2 weeks after the Prime Minister launched his book titled Exam Warriors that deals with ways to deal with exam stress for students, a topic that Prime Minister has addressed in his Mann Ki Baat program in the past. Nearly 20 lakh students are scheduled to take the classes 10th and 12th board exams for 2018. According to 2012 Lancet report, one student commits suicide in India every hour. Panchanan Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And Supreme Court on Friday gave a solution to the long-standing Kaveri water dispute, pronouncing its verdict on the decades-old dispute. The apex court said that no state can claim exclusive ownership of interstate river water. The court ruled that Karnataka will now get an additional 14.75 TMC feet of water. The verdict was welcomed by the centre and Karnataka, and said that it was disappointed.
A three-member bench of the Supreme Court on Friday increased the allocation of Kaveri river water to Karnataka by 14.75 thousand million cubic feet. The verdict states that Karnataka will now release 177.25 thousand million cubic feet to Tamil Nadu instead of 192,000 million cubic feet awarded by the Kaveri Water Dispute Tribunal.
Both the states should be a reason, there is a reason for both the states to be happy. The Karnataka has a special reason to be happy because our liability has been reduced by 14.25 TMC. The drinking water requirement of Bangalore have been fully protected at the moment.
Out of a total 740 TMC feet, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala and Puducherry will now be annually entitled to 404.25 TMC feet, 284.75 TMC feet, 30 TMC feet and 7 TMC feet of Kaveri water respectively. The court didn't make any change in water allocation to Kerala and Puducherry. In addition to this, 10,000 million cubic feet of water will be used for environment protection and 4 TMC feet will be kept for inevitable leakages into the sea.
No, please. Now the Honorable Supreme Court has taken a view. That's all. Now we must find out ways and means to rectify any grievances through legal means.
The bench has granted 6 weeks to the centre to come up with a scheme to ensure compliance of its 465-page judgment. It also ordered setting up of a Kaveri water board to look into the timely release of the water to all parties. The verdict will remain in force for 15 years. The centre has welcomed the apex court's verdict.
वो शासन के ऊपर बंधनकारक है. सभी राज्यों ने इस निर्णय का आदर करना चाहिए. भारत सरकार की ओर से इसके बाद में भी जहां पानी की तीव्र समस्या आएगी, सूखा आएगा, तो चर्चा के आधार पर हम लोग इस समस्या को सुलझाने की कोशिश करेंगे.
On September 20th last year, the bench reserved its verdict on the matter. The long-awaited judgment comes on appeals filed by Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala against the 2007 award of the Kaveri Water Dispute Tribunal. It said the increase in share of Kaveri water for Karnataka by 14.75 thousand million cubic feet was in keeping with groundwater of 10,000 million cubic feet and 4.75 thousand million cubic feet drinking water requirements of Bengaluru residents. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And in Breakfast News, time for a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Stay tuned.
In mankind's race for prosperity, are we pushing Mother Nature into poverty? What world will we leave for future generations? Pressing questions that demand urgent answers. Watch our coverage of the World Sustainable Development Summit on Rajya Sabha TV.
The high decibel campaign for Tripura Assembly elections ended on Friday. The left has been in power for 5 terms in the state, with the Chief Minister Manik Sarkar at the top post for 4 terms in a row. The state will go to polls on 18th of February to elect its 60-member state assembly, and the results for the polls will be announced on 3rd of March. Now, the BJP is contesting on 51 seats, while its ally, the Indigenous People's Front of Tripura, has fielded candidates on 9 seats, and the results for the polls will be announced on 3rd of March. And ahead of Tripura Assembly polls, the security arrangements are in place along the Indo-Bangladesh border, with the BSF keeping a close vigil. Now, speaking to Rajya Sabha television, Chief Electoral Officer of Tripura, Sri Ram Taranikanti, said that security forces have been asked to intensify patrolling to thwart any untoward incident. He also said that Indian voters living in the other side of the barbed wire along the border would be able to exercise their franchise without any problem.
Joining me is the Chief Electoral Officer of Tripura, Mr. Ram Taranikanti. Welcome to Rajya Sabha television, sir. There are allegations that political parties are unleashing violence. There are allegations of intimidation. Tell me, how would you ensure that free and fair elections take place?
First and foremost, we are making adequate security measures. We have got a large contingent of CAPF forces here. And in addition to that, we have our state forces and the Tripura State Rifles as well. So we are having a very good grid of security all over the state. So that will ensure the security measures are well taken forward. In addition to that, we have about 52 observers which have been deputed by Election Commission of India to oversee the election process. And about 90% of our polling booths are also covered, polling station locations are also covered with micro-observers from the central government. In addition to that, we have also given massive training to all stakeholders. We have sensitized the political parties, and we are gearing up our administrative machinery in such a manner that we will be able to conduct this free and fair polls. We also have a mechanism by which, in case of any event, we will be able to reach out to various sector officers, police sector officers, civil sector officers, the micro-observers, observers, and so several others, and the DOs and CEOs are there. CEOs, even my office will be able to manage, we will be getting to know what is going to happen. We are also having excellent webcasting facilities by which we will be able to see in each and every booth what is going on, and we will be able to intervene if the need is there.
Long years of insurgency and politically aware voters. In 2013 also, we saw the voter turnout was around 93%. What are your expectations this time around?
We are expecting a similar kind of a turnout. We are giving a lot of confidence to all the voters that they should come freely and vote. The people of Tripura are politically aware. They value their vote. They will come forward, and we expect that they would vote in a fair manner.
And in more news from Tripura, the BJP on Friday approached the Election Commission alleging that the ruling CPM in Tripura is spreading rumours to mislead the voters. The BJP alleged that evidence in the past elections indicate mass-scale rigging by CPM. The party claimed that the CPM had subverted electoral processes by spreading rumours, intimidating voters and unleashing violence. Let's get you some other news now. Bihar Assembly building in Patna is all decked up for the 6th Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Conference that kicked off on Friday. Lok Sabha Speaker Sumitra Mahajan will formally inaugurate the CPA meet today. The 3-day conference will see delegates from all states and both houses of parliament to talk about a host of legal and constitutional issues and their impact on the functioning of the government. A number of legislators from foreign nations are also expected to participate in the event, being hosted in Bihar for the first time.
We are a globalized village, and many of the issues are very similar. I was coming in today, your Honourable Speaker was telling me about climate change. Those are issues also facing other parliaments across the world. There are issues around migration, there are issues around security and prosperity. All of those issues face parliamentarians wherever we are in our Commonwealth. And bringing parliamentarians together to exchange ideas on how their societies are addressing these problems help us to create pool of expertise, and also what works, what could be done better, but also carved out from the global experiences of what we are all seeking to do for our societies, which are to create stable and prosperous and secure societies.
And now an update on the fraud in PNB, and the Reserve Bank of India and market regulators SEBI have stepped up the probe into the 11,400 crore rupees fraud at the Punjab National Bank. The RBI has warned of appropriate supervisory action, saying that it is assessing the control systems at the bank. Market regulator SEBI has also launched a probe into trading and disclosure-related issues of the state-owned bank. Meanwhile, the Indian Banks Association has convened a meeting today to deliberate on the ramifications of the scam. The Chartered Accountants Apex body, ICAI, has also taken a suo motu cognizance of the fraud and has sought information from investigation agencies. The RBI has denied media reports that it had directed PNB to meet its commitments under the letters of undertakings to other banks. And taking action in connection with the multi-crore fraud involving Punjab National Bank, the External Affairs Ministry has suspended the passports of the suspects Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi. The Income Tax Department has also attached 21 bank accounts of Nirav Modi's company. The CBI has lodged a fresh FIR against Modi's company and has approached Interpol to locate the duo. Here is a detailed report.
The External Affairs Ministry on Friday suspended the passports of Nirav Modi and his business partner Mehul Choksi, the main suspects in the Punjab National Bank fraud case, for 4 weeks. The ministry gave them a week to respond why their passports should not be revoked.
If they fail to respond within the stipulated time, then we will go ahead with the revocation. This gentleman is not in touch with any of our officials, any of our ME officials, and frankly at this stage we are not aware about his location.
The Enforcement Directorate meanwhile continued searches to collect more evidence against Nirav Modi. It also summoned Modi and Choksi in connection with its money laundering probe in the 11,400 crore rupees alleged fraud in PNB. The notices were handed over to the directors for their firms. The CBI also registered a fresh FIR against Choksi and Nirav Modi following a complaint from Punjab National Bank and approached the Interpol with a request to locate them. The agency also carried out searches at 26 places across India after naming 3 companies in a fresh FIR. They also questioned 4 PNB officials in this connection. SBI said it had an exposure of 1,360 crore rupees with respect to a letter of undertaking that PNB issued to Nirav Modi, but doesn't have any direct exposure to the absconding jewellery designer. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Friday said that people must be at the centre of governance and the leadership must have empathy and compassion. While addressing the 24th Sri Chitra Thirunal Memorial Lecture in Thiruvananthapuram, he added that a democratic government has to be vigilant, watchful and open to new trends. The Vice President further said that an attitude of constant reform, transformative visionary leadership can make a difference. Naidu called Sri Chitra Thirunal an icon of good governance, embodying the essence of Indianness. He also called Thirunal a shining example of wise and progressive leadership who made an immense contribution to India's glorious history.
Gandhiji and Dr. Ambedkar had very tenaciously fought the social evil of untouchability and has made this a major plank and integral part of India's freedom movement. Social justice and inclusion were a part of the genesis of independent India. We could not have had a really free nation with a seizable, unfree population. This concern is reflected in the preamble of our Constitution, which aims to secure social, economic and political justice to all our citizens.
International news now. The Russian Foreign Ministry has dismissed the indictments of 13 Russians by the US for meddling in the US presidential race. This comes after 13 Russians and 3 Russian companies were charged with an elaborate plot to interfere in the 2016 US presidential election through social media propaganda. The indictment arises from Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in the election. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has said that a new round of indictments in the investigation has showed that the campaign did nothing wrong and proved that there was no collusion with Russia. Taking to Twitter, US President said, and I quote him now, "Russia started their anti-US campaign in 2014, long before I announced that I would run for president. The result of the election were not impacted. The Trump campaign did nothing wrong, no collusion."
A grand jury in the District of Columbia today returned an indictment presented by the Special Counsel's Office. The indictment charges 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian companies for committing federal crimes while seeking to interfere in the United States political system, including the 2016 presidential election. The defendants allegedly conducted what they called information warfare against the United States, with the stated goal of spreading distrust towards the candidates and the political system in general.
And on to sports now. India beat South Africa by 8 wickets in the 6th one-day international at the Centurion on Friday. Chasing a victory target of 205 runs, India made 206 runs for a loss of 2 wickets in 32.1 overs. Skipper Virat Kohli scored his 35th century and remained not out on 129 runs off 96 balls, which included 2 sixes and 19 fours. He made a 126-run partnership with Ajinkya Rahane for the 3rd wicket. Rahane scored 34 runs and remained unbeaten. Virat scored his 3rd century of this series and his 4th century of South Africa tour. Earlier put into bat, South Africa were all out for 204 in 46.5 overs. Kaya Zonda, who scored 54, was the highest run contributor from the host side. And Indian women have won their second T20 cricket match against South Africa by 9 wickets at East London. After restricting the host to a modest score of 142 for 7, India easily overhauled the victory target by making a 144 for 1 in 19.1 overs. Mithali Raj remained unbeaten on 76, which came off 61 balls. The opening stand between Mithali Raj and Smriti Mandhana yielded 106 runs in 14.2 overs. Mandhana made 57 in 42 balls. Skipper Harmanpreet Kaur remained not out on 7. After yesterday's impressive win, Indian women have taken a 2-0 lead in the 5-match T20 series. Indian women have already clinched the ODI series by a 2-1 margin. On to some tennis news. And Indian star Yuki Bhamri has advanced into the final of the Chennai Open on Friday. Bhamri beat Lee Duck-hee of South Korea 7-5, 6-2. Earlier, Bhamri booked his place in the semi-finals after defeating Japan's Yasutaka Umigayama 5-7, 6-2, 6-4. Bhamri will next face either Jordan Thompson of Australia or Pedro Martinez of Spain in the summit clash. And India's second lunar mission, Chandrayaan-2, is scheduled for an April 2018 launch. While this is not India's first mission to the moon, it will be ISRO's first attempt to land a rover on the moon's south pole. The announcement was made by Jitendra Singh, in charge of the Department of Space. That's all in this edition of news, but news and updates continue on Rajya Sabha television. Thanks for watching.